Hello, good evening. Welcome. My name is Billy Bunton, and tonight I've invited two of the internet's most thoughtful and creative minds to join me on this platform. Together, we are going to tackle some of the biggest questions, and we're going to do it with raw, authentic perspective. Okay? Plus, it's 2026. It's the first episode of 2026. It's a brand new year. Let's start it off right. Welcome to the League of Extraordinary Discourse. What's good, Joe? On the right side of the screen, we have our guest, Jason Myles. What's up, Jay?
How are you?
Glad to be here. Yep, thanks for being here. On the left side, we have a fan favorite. She's back. It's Sheba.
Hey, baby. Hi.
Thanks for being here. Before we begin, can you just quickly show the totems that we have, the colorful totems that you'll be using to vote with, guys and gals? With your colorful totems, you guys will be voting on two claims today. You either agree with the claim and you'll use green, you disagree with red, or you're unsure about the claim and you'll use the color blue. I am your host and I'm a participant and I'm giving out points, okay, for strong, original arguments, quality discourse, whatever. The points don't really matter, okay? What matters is this conversation we're going to have. And without any further ado, let's get 20 minutes on the clock. The first claim: my truth is different from your truth. What do we think of that? My truth is different from your truth. Let's set some votes. We got a red. Oh, we got a agree from Sheba and a disagree from Jason Myles. Interesting. I believe that Sheba voted first there, so I'll go with Sheba. You agree with that? Why do you agree?
Okay, so the premise was my truth is different from your truth.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I've definitely been seeing more and more like I'm kind of all there is. And yeah, so like my truth is just different than everyone else's that I encounter. I don't even know if you guys are real. You guys are kind of just projections of me, who I have yet to meet. Yeah.
Okay. Jason, what do you think of that? Why'd you vote against this? You disagree?
Against it? I think I'm against the concept as a whole about the individual truth, because we're talking kind of about opinions. And when we hear this term like my truth, speak your truth, it kind of comes from a lot of trauma discourse as well. And Catherine Liu actually has a book coming out right now about a kind of a culture built around that. So you have really a culture built around people that believe kind of what Sheba's saying, right? I am the center of the universe, and the way I see things and understand it is the absolute. And if whatever I say goes, and you can't question my quote unquote truth. So I've never really liked the discourse around one's individual quote unquote truth.
Okay. How do you contend then with the different perspectives that occur and the fact that for each of us, it seems it feels very much like a truth. Like people will fight over this. There will be, Could you bring your head over to I think it's your right, Jason. Boom, there we go. Just so I can see you full. Okay.
Again, I guess it depends on the situation, right? Upbringing has a lot to do with it. So the way you see the world is probably how you only want to understand it. So we're also living in a moment where it's like, the way I understand things and the anecdotal data that I have ends up being my truth. So I'll listen to somebody. I'm not above that. But when it comes down to like, well, this is the way I see things, when it really boils down to like, this is the way I feel about something. If people said it that way, maybe you can have a little bit of a different conversation. But once we say my truth, we've eliminated a certain kind of discourse, because I'm not supposed to question your truth, kind of like when if you're in a Christian household and someone says, you know, God spoke to me and said, you can't question what God then told them. You can't be sure God told you that. Maybe God told you something different. Like, you can't say that, right? And
Yeah.
my truth functions in the same way to me.
What do you think of that, Sheba?
I think, you know, whether or not you question my truth doesn't change it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
you
that's what I
know,
said. Yeah,
my,
yeah.
my,
I think we're agreeing, right? That
yeah,
it's
I think so. I'm like,
yeah.
my truth, how I see it, you know, all of the things that go into like my lens remain, even if someone disagrees with it.
But it also goes to show how short-sighted someone can be, right? Like, if you've never left the ghetto, you're probably only going to understand the world functioning in one certain kind of way. And if you get and see more of the world, then your quote unquote truths start to get questioned by the bigger reality that you can see. So we're also talking about like trying to have a conversation with someone, depending on who you're talking to, that probably just doesn't understand or hasn't seen much of the world outside their immediate community. So again, it's a conversation that I just, maybe I picked the wrong way to go about it, but I just, I don't like to have the my truth conversation. My eyes gloss over when someone goes, you know, my truth. I'm like, okay, shit, here we go.
I really love where this is going. I think, you know, we're pointing to a challenge here. I think there's a complexity to reality that we don't typically engage with. Like we want to assume, our sciences assume, our journalism, our everyday, you know what I'm saying, like typical conversations, we assume that there's an objective thing that we can all access. And then when we describe it, the words all mean the same. But isn't it true that there's a truth that's happening in the world, but then it has to be filtered by your separate and individuated mind, you know? And so when we use the like the and it feels real to you. So like a perfect example recently, I mean, Doug Wilson was, you know, this American Christian conservative pastor. You know, he believes that women are just things that babies come out of, and he wants to and this is the truth to him. And you know, instead of being frustrated, I found some ease in noticing that he lives in a different world. He has different words, his different things that he believes in entirely. He sees everything through a different filter.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're all, you know, individual truth filter machines here to discern the truth from our, you know, unique machinery. So yeah, and like it's my job, you know, to not be so easily swayed by someone else's, be it Doug Wilson or, you know, some external authority. And so yeah, I think now we're like kind of starting to take the authority from like outside to like inside.
In the situation that you propose, but that's not truth as much as it is an opinion, though, right? It's if I have an opinion about women, right, that they're difficult, all of them are born difficult, and it's inherent in their nature for them to be a stressful strain on my life. That's my opinion. That's not necessarily the truth. And that's kind of easy to dispel. You're like, well, all women? Like, you haven't met all women. So how do you know? Well, all the ones I deal with, that's all the ones you deal with. It's not all women. So, you know, if someone believes that all women are just baby receptacles, it's like, okay, well, that's your opinion. And if you want to call it your truth, that's some sort of flawed way to say my opinion, I guess. Or are people afraid to have opinions? So you have to kind of present an opinion as an absolute that, again, can't really get questioned. And it's back to that whole Christian thing about God told me X. So I don't really like things to sit in that space, because once they do, then now you're the a-hole if you do question it, because it's like, whoa, I already told you this is my truth, and you can't shatter my reality. And then you have to say, well, if everyone gets to have their own truth, you know, that's extremely problematic for understanding of anything that goes on, because you get to make up whatever it is that you see.
It's very complex. It's very complex. The challenge is that I think it we're pointing to something real though. Like I understand the complexity. I understand the challenge of it. I understand some of the ways people might use this as a shield, and they you know they are completely, you can't say anything about them, and that's a problem. But I mean, let's take a look. We're gonna get into immigration later. We're gonna get into ICE, but let's take a look at this Renee Good thing. Like, what's people think that this police officer was hit by a car, had bodily injuries, had to go to the hospital, and that he was justified in shooting a woman 3 times in the face, and they're angrily in defense of that, and they will laugh at you. The press secretary laughed at a reporter, I think, today, and called him, said he doesn't deserve to be in that seat because he implied that the police officer wasn't hurt. So this is a bit more difficult, right? Even though there's video, it's a bit more difficult. It's like people hold a truth that you and I are like, what are you talking about? Now, again, it's an opinion, but it's like, we're looking at a video. So how does this happen? This goes back to the question. You know, my position is if I had voted, I would have voted agreed, frankly, because it's actually a feature of truth, in my opinion, that we don't have language on. It's awkward and it's difficult, and so we rely on what we were taught, which is this idea of an objective truth. But yet every day we're battling with our separate truths or separate experiences.
But again, are you battling with it, or are you just letting people go, just saying ridiculous stuff in front of you? Like, we have to understand that the Trump administration, especially 2.0, is really leaning in to kind of the pro wrestlingification of all conversations. So, you know, recently Donald Trump got yelled at by a worker in an auto plant, I believe in Michigan, where he was visiting, and he flipped the guy off and said F you, which is not something we would ever think to see from a president. He called someone, he's a fat pig, that asked him a question he didn't like. And the press secretaries kind of act in kind. I believe someone questioned why, who was it, Putin or Netanyahu? I can't remember who. I think it was Putin was meeting with Trump in this country and not this other country, and like who said that? And the press secretary replied, "Your mom." Like, there's a rudeness, and this isn't about truth anymore. And again, when we try to make it too deep, then you allow a certain amount of, I don't know if I can curse, fuckery within the conversation. Like, no, you can't say that. But we also have to understand that most people that have White House access are just stenographers at this point for the circus, because better than even 2016, there's a kind of horrortainment that happens when anyone from this administration speaks, and we're kind of drawn to the next crazy thing he's going to say, because we don't know which way it's going to go. So it's this weird, dark, choose your own adventure story that everybody can pontificate on, because maybe he does invade Venezuela, maybe he doesn't. You really don't know what he's going to do at any moment, because he doesn't know what he's going to do at any moment, right? That being said, whoever says that's not true in a prep, they never say that. Maybe if you interview a JD Vance, maybe if you interview a Marco Rubio, those people aren't really afraid of him. And those are the people that don't really give you the same kinds of headline material that a Donald Trump is going to give you, because they're still professionals to a certain extent. They didn't come up in the pro wrestling world. They didn't have to create their own insane narratives that they've been working on for the last 50 years of who they are and how they got their wealth and how they flaunt it and how wonderful they are. They came up kind of the old-fashioned politics way, so they don't even know how to function that way. So when you hear Trump talk, everyone's kind of sitting back with it, like, what's he gonna say next? can I get the good headline here? Instead of trying to push back and question that.
Yeah.
Coupled with this moment where people just don't want to be as rude, I guess. Maybe that it's seemed rude now to question one's truth. But if you center your conversation in that what you're saying is the way you understand things, and we can't have a conversation to broaden that,
right,
then you're automatically shutting yourself off from any understanding, and you're kind of Archie Bunker sticking your fingers in your ears, calling everybody an idiot. So
Sheba,
do we really want to talk with these people at this point? I guess you can ask yourself that question, like, and how, and if you do really want to, what are you going to get out of it? I guess.
I mean, there's that, but I'll go to Sheba. Like, is this a linguistics thing then? Is this rhetorical? Is like the word truth is the problem? I mean, go.
Yeah, I think if anything, like, I haven't been tuning into the news in the 3D, but yeah, if Donald Trump is flicking people off and saying the thing, it seems like he's being very truthful, being very honest about who he is. And we're so used to this performance of pretend civility and not wanting to be rude. And this person speaks and then this person listens and writes it down. And we're so used to falseness that I think the truth feels uncomfortable and scary. And we've been taught to fear the unknown. So I think what we're seeing is truth. And yeah. And so we're going to have to learn how to navigate with that.
That's interesting that you say that. Just recently in the sports world, there was a situation where it was just wild card weekend in the NFL. I was actually just writing about this. I'm not done yet. But at the end of the game, the Jacksonville Jaguars lost at home. A reporter for the Jacksonville Free Press, instead of peppering the coach with a bunch of questions about failure and what they did or didn't do right, she said, basically, I'm paraphrasing, good game, hold your head up high, don't be ashamed, we're proud of you as fans, and good job for the season. And the coach got a little teary-eyed. Mm-hmm. Now, what people in the press world said was this woman should get her credentials revoked. That was sweet, but that's not journalism. But what people that saw it said was, this was really awesome. This helps me feel good about humanity. Because what people saw, to your point, Sheba, about Donald Trump being quote unquote authentic, is an authentic moment where, so what? I work in sports journalism. It's sports journalism. You're not questioning the president about military exercises overseas. You're questioning the guy about, X's and O's after a game.
Yeah.
It's literally about a game that's supposed to be fun, and they've they're like a little too committed to the bit of like, it's serious and we're doing what? Yeah, you're playing a game, babe. Like we should be proud of you.
Yeah. To be so married to this idea of journalistic integrity and objectivity when you're literally talking about something extremely frivolous that has no effect on like foreign policy or the domestic economy.
I find it's like now you want to be serious. Now they want to be so committed to the bit.
But when you see this lady, this is an older woman as well. So, the older we get, the more we don't really care about how we're perceived. To have that human interaction and to see the coach's interaction as, it's a heartbreak to lose a game so close. No one wants to be on the wrong side of that, and to have someone say, hey, good job. You could say, well, maybe she could have said it after the presser, but I do think saying something like that when the cameras are on, it's important that we do understand people have a certain amount of humanity. Yeah. And if the only way we can understand humanity is when we act out in violence, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah,
literally. Yeah, it's like that made me think of we're supposed to be being human, and I think we've been taught for so many generations to be a pretend person who is useful to whatever money making thing. And it made me think of I remember Serena Williams when she was playing, she would lose a game and the reporters would be like, how do you feel? And she'd be like, bad.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? And they were like, oh my gosh. Like, they were so mad that she wouldn't perform what this, like, oh, I've learned the lesson. And like, sometimes you just have a bad game. Sometimes like you're evenly matched and it's just whatever. And so it's so funny to see these times when people are being human, modeling being human, and like people are like, whoa, we don't do that.
Yeah.
No, we do this performance.
I mean, if you really expand this idea to what Sheba's saying about truth and authenticity, which you opened the show with, there's a big reason why people do like figures like Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders to some degree. It's because there is an air of authenticity in the way they speak, in the bluntness in which they speak, right?
Yeah. We're so thirsty for authenticity, for someone just tell me like it is. Please don't be like, you know, fucking me and like, you know, tricking me all the time. Yeah.
And we have to admit, like, even with sports stars who used to be characters at one point in time, so many of them understand themselves as brand. That they're not going to say the wrong thing. They've been media trained since they were in junior high and high school, and now it's even worse with the advent of NIL.
Yes.
That so many people just, you know, both teams play hard. We got to try better. Blah 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 blah. You're just going to get the same things. And whenever you have any sort of real human interaction,
people love it.
Usually people condemn it, which is funny because like Sheba said, we're so thirsty for it, but yet when it happens, we don't really know how to react. So generally there's an overreaction to it. But
and I think we have this like fear of like the response of the reaction, of the negative reaction that will come from, you know, going off script and being genuine and being vulnerable. And I think a lot of times we like build up that it's going to be so, oh, everyone's going to come for me. And like, really, I think a lot of people are grateful to have the permission to be real, to forget your lines, to just be truthful.
Hey, let me jump in real quick. We have we've hit the 20-minute mark on this segment, but I just want to, before we, this was a great conversation. Thanks for that. But really, I want to, before we jump to the next thing, I want to push just a bit with Jason on some stuff because, you know, when you bring up journalism, for instance, when you said that Trump, it's just sort of Trumpism. Okay, we're going back to the question about truths being different. I don't just mean that some people have opinions. I don't just mean the kayfabe of the Trump administration making shit up. I mean, for instance, even in journalism, I have a definition of journalism that requires something of me. There are other people at major corporations like CNN who define journalism entirely differently, define themselves, their role in society differently, and they're operating in life differently. They don't even understand the critique that you and I might make of them. They're like, I recorded the notes that the president said and I handed it into the editor, and that's journalism. And that's what truth is to them. That's what reality is to them. And I want to make sure we don't lose that. Like, I feel like sometimes this difference of reality, the fact that we have separate realities in our minds, we only really notice it when a big conflict seems to happen. But I feel like one of the challenges, one of the ways we can deal with this complex reality is to engage with each other and engage with this difference more often, to not brush it aside as a Trumpism.
Reality? But is that reality or market logic? Because I don't necessarily think that's truth or reality. I think that's market logic. I'm going to sit here and take these notes, and this is what the story is going to be because this is what gets people to click on the thing or buy the magazine. That's more market logic than it is an understanding of truth, because that would mean that those people believe that the words that are being said are real. Like if you listen to NPR for 5 minutes, they're really horrible on foreign policy. Some of the local stories are great, but it's really horrible on foreign policy. And it's like, this person worked under Obama's foreign policy. This person worked under Biden's foreign policy. This person worked under Bush's foreign policy. Right. And foreign policy is just American imperialism, either with pronouns or with a boot on the neck. So when you hear these people talk, I'll go so far as to agree with you and say, I believe that they believe what they're saying is true when they talk about the horrors of Venezuela. These are also people that really only understand communism or any sort of ideas about anything socialist as an enemy to their imperial project.
Exactly.
And they don't really see themselves as the enemy.
That's right.
Yeah.
But again, this is more about opinions. This is more about market logic. This is more about where you sit in
But
adjacency
these
to empire.
opinions manifest in real actions and real thoughts and they manifest in the real engagement with the individual, you know, and we're just pointing to a couple of them, but each of these things, the level of genuine belief is different. I mean, religion, people truly, their truth is that, you know, we talked about it. So I just want to say that we're pointing to a complexity. Some of it is when you go out into the world and you learn more about socialism, you learn more about Venezuela, you learn more about economic theory and systems, you have to engage differently with it. But some people, yes, their world and their truth, their definitions are what they are, and that I find value in noticing and accepting that they're seeing the world, they literally feel and see differently than you might.
I really started to see with like the Biden administration and how they dealt with Israel and Palestine, that like I'm like, oh, okay, they think they're just allowed to lie, and because they've said it from the podium, we're supposed to accept it as truth. And so many people are just like, yep. And I'm like, what's happening? What's happening? So I think we're taught to just accept whatever someone in a certain position of authority says as truth, and we're not used to questioning it. And so it's messy and it's uncomfortable, and we're learning.
Yeah, we are. Jay, I don't know if I'll give you 10 seconds if you have something to final, and then we go out.
No,
we just keep it moving. All right, good. All right, then we're gonna move on to our second segment where we just get to know each other a little bit better here. That's the end of the first round. Wow, you guys both did great. Sheba, I got you with 9 points. Jason, I got you with 12 points. Jason, you're doing great so far. we still have more rounds to go. But for this round, I want to just ask you guys both: what are you up to? What are you dealing with, Jason? What are you creating recently?
Well, like I said, I'm currently doing a lot of writing, working on a few different things. I just published a piece that's in Current Affairs right now. I forget what they titled it. I titled it Hot Cheeto Behavior, and I don't think they liked that title. So it's about pro wrestling and Donald Trump. So that's out right now in Current Affairs. And of course, I have my show. This is Revolution Podcast.
Yeah. It was a great piece. I think they called it the Kayfabe President.
Okay, there you go.
Check that out. Thanks for that. Sheba, what are you working on?
Oh my gosh. I'm in the middle of this divine sabbatical these days. So I'm getting in my spiritual bag. I'm healing these ancestral wounds around money and overwork and scarcity and power. And so, yeah, really, really just going with the divine flow.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Glad to hear it. Great. Let's jump into round two. We got 20 minutes on the clock, and here's the claim. Abolish ICE. Lock in your vote.
Green is yes, correct?
Green is yes. We got a green. We got two greens. Jason went first this time. Jason, tell me, why do you agree with abolish ICE?
I mean, it's unnecessary. You already have a border patrol.
Jay, come to the right. Come to the right. Move your head to the right a little bit.
To the right.
There we go. Right there. Yep.
Yeah. If we think about its function, it was kind of designed after 9/11, and it was designed to harass a different kind of brown person after 9/11 and spy on a different kind of brown person and round up people. And right now it's being weaponized against dissent. And that's kind of frightening. So I don't really see a use for it. I mean, I believe it was AOC, like her first term in office, spoke about getting rid of ICE as well. And not many people thought much about it because we never saw how it functioned because the way the Obama administration and the Biden administration, and I'm not saying that they were better, it was different the way their deportations functioned.
Yeah.
And the brutality, it's not about numbers with this administration. It really is about you seeing the brutality, because now we're seeing ICE no longer function as this brutal force to round up brown people. We're seeing them as a brutal force that's going to stop any type of dissent whatsoever. And all this seems to be happening for a reason. Is that reason to incite the Insurrection Act and try to fight a very odd war on your own people who mostly are unarmed? I don't know, but ICE in and of itself is an extremely unnecessary organization.
Points. Sheba, what do you think?
Yeah, totally agree. With all of that, and yeah, it's like, but yeah, we're in this imperialist society, and it's about crushing dissent with violence and force, and immigration, illegal immigration is such like a non-thing. I'm like, get in here, like, come on, like, give us some spices and some flavor, please. And so it's just such a distraction. And if anything, try to think positively, like the working classes, non-ruling classes need to be galvanized and need to see, like, yeah, it's the wealthy are coming for all of us. They recognize they can pay people with guns to do a bunch of bad stuff, and we can, the laws are made up, everything is made up. So yeah, no one's coming to save us.
Yeah.
But ourselves. Sorry.
But
I didn't mean
ourselves.
to be so ominous.
Without a doubt. I mean, some of the Trump administration has elevated things in such a way that such high visibility, the cruelty, the immunity, and the double downing of full rights to murder. Sheba.
And I think that's like you had mentioned, yeah, like Obama and Biden also did not abolish ICE, and recognize the value of, keeping people afraid and having, what do you call it, diplomatic immunity or whatever, they can just do whatever they want. And so I think it's good it's like, everything is being unveiled, and like,
Yeah.
whereas before everyone was kind of just like pretending like everything's fine, like we can't pretend anymore, and we're seeing everything for the truth of what it is, which, nothing can be changed until it's faced. Is that it? Yeah.
That feels right. Jason, what happened to these conservatives, man? What happened to Don't Tread on Me? What happened to small government? What the fuck?
They're like,
What's
don't
wrong
tread
with
on me,
these people?
daddy, please.
Remember, this starts in the Bush administration, and no one was talking about it being bad during Obama as he was deporting millions, was it like 3 million people? But
Yeah.
again, there's a certain way that it was functioning under Obama that is very different to Trump, and there's a reason why you didn't see it so much, because brutality wasn't part of the plan, because the Democrats just function a little differently.
Yeah.
Not
They
to say
use
that,
this veneer of civility, I think, to get away with essentially the same things.
First and foremost, if you're kind of patrolling around border towns, you're going to find people that aren't here legally. If people have committed crimes that are here with green cards or undocumented, and they're in state and federal institutions, they're real easy to find and round up. You didn't see him knocking on doors and asking people, where were you born? When you do that, you're kind of starting from a point of, I don't know. I don't know, opposed to, these are the people that we're supposed to get and we have warrants. And not to say that, one is much better than the other, but they just functioned differently. But the point was that Obama could institute DACA, right? And then with a wink and a nod, also appeal to a conservative base with mass deportations. and also the build out we started to see under that administration, maybe even Bush, of private prisons were not the way maybe Michelle Alexander explained them in the new Jim Crow, because many of them were for holding facilities, because it's civil detention, which is a whole different ball of wax for immigrants. So again, if the question is abolish ICE, should we? Like, sure, that's one thing. And then you kind of have this other thing where there's an industry built around trying to warehouse these people, which a lot of people point to why Trump's doing it. But if that was the case, we'd be warehousing them domestically. And before all this stuff was happening in Minneapolis, for a while we were talking about people being sent to CCOT, which is in El Salvador.
Right.
We're talking about people being sent to Uganda. Like, how much money did that cost?
That's crazy.
So, you know, the amount of money that's being spent to make a spectacle,
yes,
for
intentionally,
the king,
Yeah.
it is kind of being talked about by conservatives. So I wouldn't say it's as easy as conservatives don't care, because if you are a Republican and you're running for office, this is horrible for you. And the only thing you can hope for at this point is just apathy in the voting public, so they just don't vote. And maybe you can keep your seat due to you having like an overwhelming majority in the district that you're in. So Trump is bad for his own party.
yeah,
And they all know that. That's why you're seeing people break from it. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who maybe was his most faithful soldier,
right.
has broken away and got out of politics altogether. That's insane.
That's insane. There's a lot of insane stuff happening. Things that we would consider negative, things we consider, I don't know, Marjorie Taylor Greene, positive. The transformation of Tucker Carlson, maybe a positive.
He hasn't transformed. He's the same guy.
I think he's the same guy, but he's saying something very different. And it's not just him, right? He's no longer a Fox News anchor. He's no longer in that machinery. He's no longer getting the briefings in the morning and, like, you know, the uniformity on their bullshit. You know,
but does he need it? That's the bigger question is, did he need that? I don't think he ever needed that. He's the same guy he was 20 years ago. Just because he's got Jews on the brain and doesn't like Israel doesn't mean that he's an ally or a comrade. I mean, listen to the guy talk about heritage Americans.
No ally, Cameron. You're using these words that are bringing things in a different direction. I wouldn't call it that.
Just because someone says war bad, I can't be like, yeah, they're my dude now. I was like, the guy still sucks. Listen to what he says. Watch his Nick Fuentes interview.
Oh, for sure. No, there's a whole bunch that needs to be teased out. I guess what I want to point to, though, I mean, this kind of ties into the earlier conversation about truth to get, or our different truths, perhaps, right? Because, look, we're dealing with lots of videos now of detainees. We've got the CBS report, like you said, CCOT, crazy stuff. We've got videos of people getting roughed up. A kid just got shot in the eye yesterday, and Reagan Good getting shot. Keith Porter was killed in LA. We've got videos of, like, cars being windows smashed and seatbelts cut all over, like, just these massive, horrible scenes. And yet there's a contingent of people who are cruel and don't care. And then I think there's a contingent of people who, they simply look at the thing and they believe we haven't instantiated the human element of, like, our shared experience. Like, they look and they believe in the us and them. You see, they live in a world where there's an us and them. So these things are worth it because of this broader problem. And they've successfully been indoctrinated into a broader problem, which then makes even these horrendous things reasonable, it seems, in their mind. And that's how I see it. And I think that's the battle we have to have. We have to constantly be in a place of, like, reminding ourselves of what is, which includes the human element. Which includes, go ahead, Sheeps.
Yeah, I think we've definitely just been taught, like, a person in a position of authority can lie, can be violent, can break the rules, And we're supposed to like kind of go along with it, you know, our
They love it.
military and our just general, you know, general like how people are. It's very, yeah, this apathetic kind of like, oh, what can you do? Gotta go to work. It's like, I don't know, something different.
Yeah.
Well, I'll raise this. I don't think, I think we do question power. I think if you look at where this country was before Vietnam and Watergate, I think after those two things, you have a moment where the country's truly questioning everything. And then you have like My Lai, which is exposed around that same time as well. And there really is a loss of faith in the people that you were supposed to trust, because Vietnam doesn't feel like World War II for a lot of these people. Their kids are coming home either in body bags or with, you know, deformities or extreme PTSD or drug addictions. And so that's a problem. And it's a certain type of kid, right? The kids that were able to get college deferments didn't have these problems. So now we're talking about a certain type of person that's being used as fodder for a machine. So I think we've been questioning these things for some time, but we have to ask ourselves, kind of back to the whole authenticity point that you bring up in the initial part of the show, Billy. How do certain figures get into power and gain trust? And then you can look at a person like Jimmy Carter to a certain degree, presents himself as a bit of an outsider. He's got a country accent, which is something we haven't seen in our memory for a president. And he's followed by Ronald Reagan, who was, I won't say a famous actor, but he was an actor and a governor who, when he left office and lost in 76, went on a crazy media campaign. Since he had so many friends in the business, he was on Johnny Carson a few times, kind of touting how he helped transform California by changing welfare and continuing to push this story about a welfare queen that was taking all of your tax dollars. So when you hear these people talk,
This is
they
Carter.
don't sound as much like politicians, but as people that don't really have maybe an ideology. They just do the right thing. So they become Forrest Gump or Edith Bunker, right? Forrest
who
Gump
we
doesn't have a
talking about here?
political ideology. He just does the right thing. There's something authentic about that. You see that in Bush too. You see that in the way people want to project onto Barack Obama, and you definitely see that with Donald Trump. So I don't know if we just listen and obey. The scary thing is, do people feel like this is the new normal and they just keep moving forward? And that's the frightening thing for me. It's not that you're a sheep and you just follow whatever orders people tell you. It's that you go, well, this is just what normal is now moving
Yeah, it's a
forward.
learned helplessness, I think. I think we've been taught to perform questioning the authority, like, oh, Vietnam was so bad, but like, okay, who, like, still sending our daughters and sons to the US military. Like, Myles was bad, but like, okay, did any of the people in charge of Vietnam or any of these like invasions, these, you know, breaches of decorum and the law, did anything really change? Did they get out of power? Did their children, you know, lose power? And so, like, I think we've all been taught this kind of learned helplessness, like, oh, they're so bad and nothing we can do though. And yeah, and so I think that's part of the like kind of normalizing, like, this is just how it is. The politicians lie. You know, the US military does bad things and tricks children into, you know, wars.
It's what it is.
And yeah, I think we're
But
like at the threshold of, I think, about to kind of go from like a performative resistance to like an embodied resistance.
well, don't forget the biggest part that you're leaving out is that, yeah, people say all those things. And then the end part is, but I have to get mine. So when we talk about people still going to war outside of a draft, there's a poverty draft that goes on. And the same thing you see with ICE recruits. Like, we have to admit that this is scraping the bottom of a very diseased barrel of people.
Yeah.
Washouts from law enforcement, couldn't make it in, mildly literate, anger issues. In the great words of the leader of the country, they're not sending their best.
Literally.
So, but what is the thing that gets these people in these positions? It is your economic station in life. So if you don't have a way out of your class position, and I'm going to give you, or I present to you, a $50,000 bonus, which you're probably never going to get, which is even more sadistic. You're going to do the thing. You're probably going to, quote unquote, follow the orders because it's a job. It's just a job.
I think we're taught, like, the most important thing is to do what you're told. Like, there's a boss and you are the person who's here to do what you're told. So,
That's
you know,
sitting
we're
in
not
the
taught to be creative. You know, we're like taught that, like, you know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the like smart thing to do is to like go into the military, get these like benefits and things. But like, okay, the number one cause of death for people in the military is suicide. Like, why are we still making the same choices? When are we supposed to learn, like, try something else? Try something else, you know?
But
if
who can try
like
something else?
if we understand that the government is tricking poor children into the military because, you know, they don't care about them, like, the people who are not in the military have to kind of not treat it as an honorable thing. We have to let the children know, like, no, they're tricking you. You're cannon fodder. That's why they tag you like a dog, so they can identify your body.
That person then says, okay, well, where's my job then? Where's my job and my benefits?
There's lots of work to do. There's lots of things to be done. There's lots of jobs to be had.
That are going to pay me and give me benefits for life?
Listen,
No,
like,
I mean, there's not that, because if there was,
there are lots of, like, the lack of creativity is also something I think we've been taught as part of this learned helplessness. Like, what else am I gonna do but kill a bunch of brown people and give myself PTSD for the rest of my life? Can't do nothing. Like, have some creativity. We should be able to have more creativity than our grandfathers, our fathers.
But how many people do you think actually see action like that? Not that
It
many.
doesn't.
It does matter, because now we're talking.
And that's why, like, we have to have a different understanding of it. Like, you're a murderer, even if you don't get to see the person being blown up. If you help the other murderers murder.
Now we're talking.
No, I think if you help people commit a genocide, if you make sure they have clothes, food, if you make sure they're able to travel easily so that they can do the murder, you are doing a murder. It couldn't function without all of these other people approving and doing this very bureaucratic kind of, you know, imperial management.
I'm not saying that that's wrong. All I'm saying is I'm being kind of a bit of a realist and saying that there's people that don't have the ability to go, it's time for me to be creative in my life. Because in 2020, when everybody got stimulus checks and more money on top of their unemployment, a lot of people decided to be self-employed and do for self. And then the economy turned a certain way, and now we have a lot of people out of work. And when the financial markets got deregulated in the late 90s, and we had the boom of everybody being able to buy a house with no money down, Black people in large jumped into self-employment and entrepreneurialism, only to have the rug pulled out from them a few years later when the market crashed. So this idea that people aren't creative, I would push back on that and say, no, people are extremely creative when they have the opportunity to be creative. But when you don't have any opportunities around you, and the one opportunity you have is the military that's going to get you out, you don't care about complicity, especially when it's not wartime. Most of the people that serve are in bases in places like Germany. So they're
Yeah.
not delivering any weapons of war to Israel. They're sitting in the base in Germany. They're sitting on a boat in the middle of the ocean. They're not doing anything.
So I know that like the wealthy white imperialists, they want us to be realistic. They want us to think that we don't have the option to be creative. All we can do is military, the thing that the white people keep wanting us to do. Like, no, we have to not we have to resist the urge to be realistic, because that
Okay.
is going to keep us in the loop of doing the thing that white people want us to do and wondering why we can't ever get out of it. Like, oh, dang, like,
I don't
Wait,
know
wait,
if
wait.
it's
Hold on.
white
and Black people
though.
also, we literally we survived the Middle Passage. Like, this is kind of the most equipped we've ever been, the most resourced we've ever been. Like, we've never been more able to be free, be creative, do things differently. And so I think because we don't want people to like be like, oh, you're being mean or you're not thinking about people, we let them succumb to the bigotry of low expectations.
So I wanna cut in real quick here. This is great. We've surpassed the 20 minutes point. I'm gonna let, if someone has something more to say. I just want to add this though, that like, just for Sheba is definitely sort of an anti-military sort of absolutist on this question, and you can see that in the approach here and in sort of the way it's being seen. But I want to like point out again back to the the different worlds we're in. Again, like that person who is in the military, or the person who's in Fox News, who simply sees it as a job, who doesn't engage in the full context of like what it means that they produce the content that demonizes Somali people in Minnesota, or the military guy who doesn't engage with the bombs in any place. They exist in a different world. They exist in a different truth. If Sheba were to go and tell them something, they would look at her and make the arguments that, well, you make it very, you know what I'm saying, from a certain place. They would tell from their own self, their own truth. They would go, what are you talking about? I'm making this money. And that's something that I want us to like deal with. We may not. Like,
I don't want to deal with it that way, though. I
interesting.
think that's the stupidest way to deal with it, because you're coming at it extremely from an existential point, and you're not grounded in any sort of reality. If you really believe that everybody is so blinded by their own egos and this idea of truth, then no one would ever be an informant. Remember when To Catch a Predator came on, it was producers, plural, that said, this is a bad show. What we're doing is not right, because this is entrapment. So again, it's not as simple as people just believe it and they keep going. Sometimes it's just a matter of making a living. It's back to the military thing. If I didn't have friends that were in the military, if I didn't have friends that went to prison and have like Nazi tattoos, I'm like, dude, why do you have a swastika? He goes, I was in prison and I had to join the side. And that's what it is. But I'm not in prison anymore. And I don't think this way anymore. Right?
So I come from a military family, and we have been able to succeed very much on being in the military and working in the government. And we understand that it is smart, prudent, shrewd to get an ROTC scholarship and then work a job. You have you're already a commissioned officer, and you get an easy desk job. You get to make the money, and though they don't have the threat of poverty looming over them, they still get to say, hey, I'm here to make the money. And so if we can't expect the poor people, fine, the poor children who are getting tricked to do it, fine, then the people who are older and who have the resources, they're going to have to have a change of heart.
Well, recruitment numbers are low. So even though we're in an economic downturn right now, recruitment centers aren't being filled with people trying to join the military. Sadly, we're seeing people, join ICE, but also the people that we're seeing join ICE are a bit older as well. And that really speaks to a difference in generations, where you have, again, post COVID, like we have to really understand when we have these conversations, we really have to look at it from a historic standpoint and not one of like existentialism. Like,
So I think we sometimes like we get trapped in the past. Like that's already happened. And I think our inability to kind of imagine doing it differently, imagine like losing the attachments we used to have, losing the esteem, losing the relationships that we used to have in this old system that we know doesn't work, that we know sucks. Um, yeah, we're not going to move forward, but we are going to move forward. So like that's the thing, we are moving forward. So it kind of doesn't make sense to keep
but
giving people
that's
the
my
out
point.
of like, well, what about history? Well,
No,
what
well, no,
about?
but if you, that's my point about 2020, which is only 6 years ago, which is that you have this explosion of entrepreneurialism and people leaving jobs to follow their passion, quote unquote, right? So
Yeah,
this idea that people don't know how to think differently, again, I think people did, and we saw that
yeah,
but it's when they had the economic advantage, even if it was for a short time, to do that. So what we're seeing again with ICE, you're seeing a certain age cohort that doesn't feel they have that same economic freedom, mainly because maybe they don't live at home anymore, and they're joining the force.
Yeah.
And they're also got enticed with a $50,000 recruitment bonus.
And the
So
bonuses.
it's not
Yeah,
about
we-
living in the past. It's about actually saying, look, this is the situation we're in now. Young people aren't joining the military. The military has a horrible problem right now with recruitment and retaining people. So to your point, young people are quote unquote waking up and finding new ways. But why are people joining ICE at such a rapid rate? Why are people of a certain age joining ICE of a rapid rate?
Benefits, paycheck.
If we're only living in this idea that they see it as the truth, then we're kind of missing the whole point that it's economic dire straits. I live in Mexico because I'm poor. I have a neighbor that lives in front of me that drives an Uber, and he sleeps in his car 3 days a week, and then he comes back here. And that's how he pays his bills and lives his life. That's not a rare existence.
and so he
Living
would
along.
still be wrong if he took the blood money of working for ICE. That's how we have to. We can't
If
like
it's
you
about if
have
it's
to be
about
willing
wrong or
to
right,
sacrifice your personal
you have to give
benefit.
people options.
They have
If you don't
options.
have options, if your
They
options
do
are
have
free,
options, but like the old way of thinking is that you don't have options. The only option you has is to work for the state.
well, he didn't work for the state, and also we saw Doge bulldoze hundreds of thousands of state jobs
Yeah,
in the name
it's
Right.
of
Which
efficiency.
which
And
is
those
another
state
way of
jobs
like,
weren't always in the Department of Defense. There was all kinds of levels of bureaucracy
here's
that got
what we're gonna do. We're gonna put the chair noise effect. We're gonna say that was fantastic, and I'm grateful for it. And we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to our next round, y'all. Oh wait, did I press the wrong thing? Here we go. We're going to clap. That was round two. And you guys are now amazingly both have 32 points. Oh my God. It's
I
a
love it.
tie, but it's not over. We're going into round three, which is very simple. This is the other rounds were 20 minutes. This one's a quick one. This is the difference between the League of Extraordinary Discourse and other discursive or no discussion shows, whatever we want to call this. We are doing we SteelMan in round three. All right, so let's go to the SteelMan thing. And in round three, I'm gonna ask both of you to remember something that the other person said. And can you say what the other person said in such a way that they would agree, that they would hold up their green totem and say, yes, that's exactly it. That's the challenge. Okay. Sheba, is there anything that Jason said that you can that you can remember, that you can articulate, that he would say, yeah.
I like the kayfabe idea. I think that's really powerful, and I think it's we aren't taught to like see that it's a performance. We're taught to take it all so seriously, and to make us think that like this performance they're giving us is the whole thing, is all there is. And so I think there's so much power in seeing through the illusion.
Jason, what do you think?
About illusions.
About illusions. And
I
about
think she gets a
kayfabe.
green.
She gets a green. All right, all right. Jason, is there anything that Sheba said that you can recall?
Oh yeah, sure. No, I'm trying to figure out how to say it, and I'm not good for television because you have to think.
I hate
Says
it's
the
like so
guy.
stressful having to like I'm like
To
what
think,
did I
yeah,
do?
God forbid you think and just say stupid stuff. I'm really good
No,
at
no
that. I'm
worries.
not think. I'm single because I don't think and say stupid
Yeah,
stuff.
you lean towards the
Um,
stupid. Yeah.
There is a war machine in this country that lives on the blood of the poor, and the first way to dismantle that war machine is to have employment options for the most vulnerable of us, that go beyond seeing law enforcement as a way out.
Okay. Sheba, you feel
Yeah, I agree with that. I
She
agree.
gives it a green. She gives it a green. All right. Yo, that's fantastic. That's our show. It's just been almost exactly an hour. Grateful to both of you guys. I hope you'll come on again. Thanks. Give yourselves a round of applause, yo. Both of you. Good job. Oh, you did yourself. Thanks, y'all. I will see you both very soon, okay? Take it easy. Thanks for doing your thing. Peace. That was fantastic. That was a really great job. Thanks to the league members, Sheba and Jason, Myles. Great job to both of you guys. Great job to you for tuning in and watching this. I think this was an extraordinary conversation. I think that's true. And be sure to hit that subscribe button and get updated about upcoming episodes. My name is Billy Bunton, and this has been the League of Extraordinary Discourse.